Music has the power to change the world. We have crabs. We're public health and we have crabs.
Okay. All right. First off, who am I here with?
Public health.
Yay! I'd like you to introduce yourselves. What are your names and what is your role in the band?
Should I hold it?
Yeah.
My name's Jack Yanover, and I play guitar and I sing.
Is it?
You're good.
My name's Finley Jones, and I play the bass guitar.
Perfect.
I'm Ben Miles, and I play drums.
I'm Jake Quinn, and I play guitar.
Awesome. And today we're here in Hamilton at the Doors Pub. Who are you guys playing a bill with tonight? Are you guys excited or what?
Super
very
high.
Cannot wait.
Awesome.
We're playing with Truck Violence, played them last night, and we're playing with Dear Evangeline and Red 40.
Very awesome. Yesterday you guys were in Ottawa, also with Truck Violence.
Yeah.
How was the Ottawa show?
Good. It was great.
It was
It
great.
was a good show.
Do you like Ottawa?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, it was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It's nice. It's a nice spot to walk around. It's it's a good vibe there. It's a good scene.
The venue was good.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Did you guys see the Big Scary Spider?
We
No.
did.
I was a little
I
afraid.
think I actually.
I kind of didn't want.
We saw the cobwebs and we kind of hid.
Oh yeah.
I kind of didn't want to. I heard about it.
I
decided not to go see it.
No, it's a good spider. It's like a concept. It's the statue is called Mother, and it's a big spider with a bunch of eggs in it. And you can see the eggs. It's really gross.
Where is it?
It's outside of the National Gallery of Art in Ottawa, which is a good. It's a very
I
good.
have seen that before.
It's a good art gallery.
It is.
They got Gustav Klimt. I really like that man. I saw from recent public health footage that Jake is the designated driver. Who's the worst driver in public health?
Me. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only one who doesn't have my license.
Yeah. Oh, me neither. Cool.
I love taking the bus.
No, me too.
It's just because I love taking the bus so much.
No, me too. Yeah, no, I could have if I had a car, I could drive here, but I wanted to spend like 4 hours on the bus.
Yeah.
Like lots of money on transit.
Yeah, no. Like I had like 5 transfers. It was really cool.
Damn.
Yeah. I love Scarborough. I want to do a very quick rundown of our current conception of public health and how it came into being. So I know you two kind of started the band and then it kind of evolved after that.
Kinda, yeah.
Do one of you want to take the microphone?
I'll take it. Start from
You don't have to go. I feel like it's already out there.
Give a summary.
A summary.
Famous freaking rock star.
So
Yeah, you guys are famous. It's out there.
so what's the question again? Exactly.
How did you guys come into being as this lineup of public health?
We just, Jake and I started November 2023 writing these things, and then I met Finley that same year through mutuals, and then he played bass, and we were trying to start a band, and we asked Finley, and what'd you say?
I said yes.
He said yes, and then we started writing the first few songs. We started writing Pork Pint. That was the first song we started writing.
And you had Dan on drums first.
Yeah, but Dan didn't come till 2nd of January 2024.
Okay.
When we on Instagram we were like, hey, we need drummers. She's like, I'll do it, sure. And then we had Dan, and then we had Dan until roughly March of last year, April of last year, and then he was on the record. He played on the record, and then Ben recorded the album, engineered the whole thing, mixed it, produced it, mastered it, and then we asked him to join us, and
he's been kicking ass.
he's been absolutely kicking ass ever since. Yeah.
He's our rock.
I'll take that.
He's our
Yeah.
He's our rock.
I'm gonna get more into the production of the album later, but I know this is an annoying question, but this is for Demo Toronto. Not really familiar with you guys in Hamilton. Again, annoying question, but how would you try to describe public health to someone who's never heard of you? Whether it be musically or if you just want to say something, I don't know, silly.
I would say At times disorienting,
Yeah.
but like also harmonically dense. That's kind of what we really try to.
Dense is a very good word.
Yeah, we really try to like really make it as like not overwhelming, but overwhelmingly like harmonic. If that makes any sense. Very full. Like we're always trying to fill the pockets. I don't know if you guys want to say.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think you got it. I think. How would you describe it?
Definitely very compared to like a typical like your average person's understanding of music. It's definitely very. It's definitely much more loose in structure and free in structure, and we don't really stick to any hard guidelines about like valuing like a harmonic or valuing a pleasant sounding thing versus a dissonant sounding thing. There's a lot of mix between the two of those. Whereas I feel like a lot of bands are more so one or the other. Like they do a lot more like more stuff in a minor key or more stuff in like a major key or more stuff that's just like super dissonant stuff. But like honestly, we're pretty like all blended all over.
Yeah, it is kind of all over.
Like if you analyze it from like a music theory perspective, it's kind of all over, but it kind of just comes together to just be kind of like noise rock.
Yeah.
I would say very intuitive.
Yeah.
Like
Scatterbrained intuition.
I guess I would say that we're pretty sexy.
Oh,
Yeah.
sexy.
And I think I'll
my
leave it at that.
sunglasses.
I think I'll leave it at that.
That's my coach.
Yeah. Right. Who's the heartthrob of public health?
I think definitely Jake,
Definitely Jake.
but also Jack has his moments.
I think Jack.
I think
Billy
we
has
all
his
will.
moments.
I think we all.
Take your shirt off sometimes.
Oh!
I got new sunglasses. And that definitely boosted my
Yeah.
heart throbbability. So you
Exactly.
know, we all have our moments.
New boy band, for real.
oh,
Yeah.
nah.
Jack, is there you'd like to tell us?
This is a stupid question. My editor said I shouldn't ask it. In your other interviews, it seems like people always have the question of why'd you choose the name Public Health? How'd you get the name Public Health? You stated that you had trouble choosing a name until your previous drummer saw your vaccination reports on the fridge and said, "Oh, we should name it Public Health for the Ministry of Public Health," instead of other names like Houseplant or Pith.
Oh man,
Do you have strong feelings about Pith?
I do.
I have a story. I have a story actually.
There you go.
Last night when we played in Ottawa, I went down to the bar to get a drink, and I sat down, and then the person was like, I was looking at the prices, and they're really expensive, and I was like, I don't know what to do, and they're like, get a quart, it's a Quebec thing, and I was like, okay, well, there's the overlap, and then they were like, yeah, get a quart, it's a Quebec thing. I was like, sure, more bang for your buck. And then I did, and then I started talking to the person, and I was like, and they were just talking about like bands and stuff. We were just talking about like influences, I guess. And then I was like, what band are you and what's your band's name? And they're like, Pith. And I was like, oh my god. And I was like, we almost named our band Pith.
That's crazy.
And they've been having fights with another Pith in like the States and stuff, because
It's probably good for a few reasons.
yeah, good, yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was my
That's
story.
really funny. That's like a glimpse into an alternative reality. my question with that whole spiel is it's so stupid. What's the one vaccination you wouldn't want to live without?
You want to live without?
Yeah.
Whoa. I don't know. I think
If you had
being
to pick
vaccinated
one.
is very important.
If you had to pick one. That, like measles.
Measles.
That's do they have? Yeah, they have that now, right? AIDS vaccine.
HIV.
HIV.
If there was one.
Like, couldn't live without. I don't
Yeah,
think
if
there's
you
any,
had to pick one.
like if I
I thought there wasn't.
I don't think there's any vaccines.
I don't know. I have no.
I don't keep
I
up.
ever would have died from.
If there was.
I didn't get them.
But if
That's
you
the
could only
thing,
have
that's
one
still-
more in your
that's still
life.
around.
Get the most.
Right.
If I could have one more in my life, it'd probably be like emergency tetanus shot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
smart.
like if
Yeah.
you're touching rusty things.
I could tough out the flu.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wouldn't need another booster.
Yeah.
I think 2 is fine.
Yeah,
you know?
another booster. I want to ask, what do you guys think draws individuals to public health? Like, what do you guys think you do well as a band? If it's like just in the music, if it's in the performances, why do you think? Oh, I really want to go see public health. What's going through their mind?
I don't know. I don't really like to think about that.
I prefer not to. I don't know.
Going once, going twice.
I don't want to reject your.
I'll say this. I'll say this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands I think that are doing stuff that have like a very similar vibe, like, like Cute, and I would say even like Medieval Found Footage and stuff. Like lots of bands that are like that in my mind the music is in the same exact category, but all of those bands and like we included in that are all very different when you actually get down to the details of like listening, like what it actually sounds like and what the songs are and like how the songs are composed. But like I feel like it's an interesting kind of like genre. It's almost like I don't know. It's hard to just like put a label on, but. There is a real genre and there is a real like vibe between of like what we're doing. That it does feel like an actual thing, but it's but everything in it is kind of unique, you know. So it's very cool and interesting.
Yeah.
You wanna take it?
I don't know. I don't know how people like see us, but I hope we seem friendly. Like I hope because I don't know. We like to joke around. We like to be goofs. And like I feel like it's fun to be goofs, and I feel like maybe that seems like an inviting environment where people can just kind of like chill, see a band. You don't have to like be nonchalant and shit. Yeah. Like I don't like I think I hate that the most, where everyone's like it's all image based. Like just do. I don't give a shit. Like just do. I don't know. Just like do your thing. And hang out and listen to music and make music, and like I feel like I hope that's like a thing that people come to us for, where it's like an inviting environment. I hope that, even if the music's not so inviting, I guess.
Yeah.
To some people, I don't know.
A little bit of a dichotomy. Silly band, a little bit not silly music sometimes. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Something like that. On a similar note, Ben, you recently produced the upcoming Medieval Found Footage album. Congratulations. Ooh. And in their recent segment on CFRU, Medieval Found Footage said that they heard Minamata and immediately were like, who recorded that? Let's get him. Let's get Ben Miles to do our record. What do you think makes people want you to do their record? Yeah, I will pass it. Yes, I will pass it to you. I will pass it to you too, because you probably have strong feelings.
Well, I don't think it's so much about like me personally or like really even with the stuff what we did with Minamata, I didn't even have the fanciest mics. Yeah. And that like the stuff like when we recorded the Medieval Found Footage album, we had access to a much nicer space and much better gear and stuff. Yeah. But I think it's mostly just kind of like the vibe. Or where it kind of comes from, I guess, which is like not trying to make it sound like something it's not. Because like a lot of music being recorded today is coming from a place of like people going to a studio and then the producer is like trying to like just make everything perfect and turn the band into something that they don't actually sound like. And which is hard because a lot of bands kind of sound like not very good on their own. Like not a lot of bands, but like some bands. Yeah. Like some people,
I feel like you can say a lot of bands.
So it's like, and so if you just make them sound like themselves, then it's not going to sound good like at the end. But if you take a band like Public Health at the time when I recorded them, it's like it's a good band, good songs, and it like you just kind of make it sound like how it actually sounds, and it sounds good. And then the Medieval Found Footage album, it's like that's a great band, and it's like the album is going to sound really good. Because they're so good, and then it's like that, and yeah, I don't know, and that's just kind of an aesthetic that I've like a sonic aesthetic that I've really found to like as I've gotten into music, and so is Jack in particular, and I think all of us as well. So, yeah.
Do you have something to say about?
What? Sorry, I missed out. on what he said, but I think a big reason why people want to work with Ben is because, yeah, he captures things how it is and has a really great ear for sonics and sound and acoustic and how to capture it and how to capture a live band. And I find that there's a lot of really overcompressed spot mic'd records out there, and they just don't sound, in my opinion, that great. And I think that a lot of bands spend a lot of money for a not the greatest sounding record, in my opinion. And I feel like people just like the fundamentals of it all, just like capture it well, make sure things are not out of phase and stuff, and just let it kind of mix itself, you know.
But it is interesting because, for example, like the Heavy Sweater album that came out like last year or something, I think that's a really awesome album, and it's very well produced, and it was done by the guy from Metz, I think. I can't remember his name right now, but like I remember just hearing that, and like that's a really well produced album, and that's like where it's that he's like that was done by a professional, and I think they probably like they paid for that. And I'm by no means a professional, like I'm not the top level guy or anything. But there's other guys that are also not top level guys, but if you're trying to make it sound like a top level guy, but you're not necessarily a top level guy, that's where I feel like it falls short, because if you just kind of give it what it is, then it's the most authentic. And just personally, I find that to be at least cool. Like, but versus it's not really cool to like try and make it sound like a big label thing, and then it just and then it doesn't, but like it doesn't really sound real either. So, but so I just feel like it's a winning strategy to just play to where you're at.
What's like a top level guy to you, either like right now or in the past?
Well, I mean, that Mets guy, I don't know his name, but that was
Are you talking like Canadian or like anywhere?
Anywhere.
Favorite producer?
Yeah.
Probably Steve Albini.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
It's gonna be a Steve Albini circle jerk really quickly. Yeah. So like about the album, on a similar vein, you didn't record much of Minamata at a studio. It was mostly done in Jack's basement, and then some done at your house as well. Are you guys thinking of sticking with this same kind of format in the future, or do you guys want to give the studio another chance? Like maybe you did medieval found footage at Drift Studios in Goderic, or do you think Public Health is more in its element doing like home recording?
Yeah, we were planning on doing it in Godrich.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because I have my buddy Greg there. We went to school together, and he's got a really good studio, and he basically just a few months ago got it up and going. So, like officially, like I had been hanging out, and we've done some like smaller recordings, me and him there and stuff. But now he's like got it up and going, and it's like really good. He's got a lot of good gear, so then I can bring like my stuff, and then we combine it, and we got a lot of good stuff. He's got a great room. So that's I think that's our plan, just because we want to make it as good as we can, like so. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I think. I think we're gonna we're definitely going to Godrich and stuff, but I think we still are like, I don't know, like I think for recording we want to be a little more ambitious with it all. Like just in general, like it's less like just like live with floor than vocals. Like we want to like really we want to like really try and experiment and just see what kind of comes out of it, because we have a lot more time now. It's not as rushed, and like we want to spend a lot of time with it. We just want to sit with the ideas more. Totally. Yeah, that's kind of the only difference. I don't know what you guys want to say.
You covered it.
Yeah.
Totally. Perfect. Yeah. That's cool. A little bit of a new era, new tastes.
Yes.
Are there, just general question, anything funny, any funny stories during the recording? Did anything go wrong? Anything silly in the basement?
we like just kept going.
What?
Remember the noise?
Oh,
we just
there is like an extra like 4 minutes of pork pie that we tacked out, like just that feedback at the end.
Yeah.
that was not like planned.
It was just like we just
just
kind of
did
kept
that.
going and no one stopped us.
Yeah.
And I was just in it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it was Jake's idea to put piano underneath, and then it worked really well.
It was.
We got our
beautiful.
friend.
It's honestly my favorite part on the album.
It is my
fucking
My funniest moment from recording Minamata was when I think it was Dan who just started this, but in FEB there's some gang vocals where I think Jack says like I'm living, you're living, and then Dan just kept saying I'm Finley, you're Finley, and that lives. I will always remember that as one of the funniest moments of that whole. Probably for months, that was like the funniest thing I
think
heard.
that actually did that make it. Is that all?
I think he did do it in the gang vocals, yeah. I think it is in the final one, but it was only him saying it, so it's kind of you can't really hear it.
Yo.
Yeah, loading is happening.
Yeah, that's okay. That's why I got this little microphone.
Yeah.
Did you guys go into recording the album knowing exactly which songs you wanted and where, or was anything fleshed out like while recording or afterwards?
There was a bit of moving. There was like we had a general idea of kind of how we wanted it to go, but I think we did end up moving some things around. I think.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I don't quite remember.
It wasn't fully.
It definitely wasn't like planned. It was more just a rough ideas, and then we
recorded Goblets in the same session, but I was kind of like I kind of didn't want to have Goblets.
Yeah, Goblets felt out of place for us. Yeah. Not sure why. Just we weren't like when we thought about where to put it on the album. We're like,
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah, I get it. No, still a very good song. You should play more often.
When was the last time we played?
Probably
at
least a year ago.
We never played with Ben.
Oh wow,
We've never played it with Ben.
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That tells you. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
In another interview, you guys already talked about your favorite album, so I'm not going to rehash that topic. But are public health big readers? What are your favorite books? Do you like literature, fiction, nonfiction? Does it inspire the band? Any music in any way?
I read the basics. Like, I'm not like a literature nerd. I'm like
Sounding on the word.
like I'm very inspired. Like it's the most like pretentious dude. Like Burroughs. Like all those beat stuff. Like Kerouac.
Okay.
You know, like I like that. I like especially like Naked Lunch. Like just the real abstractness of it all. Like I really like writing like that, and I that connected to me a lot. And yeah, like other than that, like I like Nietzsche, like
Okay.
Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I read that.
Okay,
Like that's like.
totally. Are you Ubermensch or no?
Sorry.
Are you an Ubermensch or no?
No.
I'm gonna say no based on that.
No. I like I don't know. Like I just like how they like twist words and like make it really abstract, and I think that's cool, and like kind of making your own meaning out of it. And then so yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I mean, like favorite book right now, at least, like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So good. Very inspirational, like for my own writing. I generally like reading like old, like shitty old Western novels, directed TV movie style. Yeah, I like comics generally. I wouldn't say that it's like super like inspired what I do musically, but like I feel like in other artistic forms it has, and I think that carries over a little bit. Like I think, you know, drawing and that, like music, it's not the same world, but it like there's similarities for each artist, I think. Sure.
I don't read books.
What?
Were you reading in the car
in the
yesterday?
car.
I maybe read like a book or two a year. I like nonfiction books, honestly.
I'm the same. I love
I-
biography books.
Yeah.
We can talk about nonfiction.
I do really like a good book when I do find it, but I don't seek out books because it feels like most of them are not interesting to me. But I want to read more. So I'm starting to open my mind up to talking to people about that and getting recommendations, but
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same position. I don't I don't read that much. Finley actually gave me a copy because he got 2 copies of Fear and Loathing, so I gotta read that. I do some like online reading about weird science stuff. I don't understand it, but I try to, and it's kind of fun.
No, yeah.
I was reading about string theory. I was like,
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a little too. What,
oh, they're like
This is crazy.
little strings, and like everything's a string.
everything's a string. Yeah.
It's so cool.
That's actually so true.
Yeah, no, that's what it's like, being in philosophy. What if matter's conscious? What if matter's conscious and actually the atoms are conscious instead of the big things? I'm like, okay. Okay.
That's when we go.
What if we're the strings?
What if? What if?
the string is the friends that we made.
Oh,
Exactly.
What if the string is the red rope that binds those friends together? Think about that.
Red rope.
The red rope. Big red string.
Red string.
That's a lover's thing.
Hey, I mean, I love you, dude.
Aw.
Aw.
Me too.
Yeah.
I love you right now.
It's a sweet band. Okay, this is going to take a little bit of a turn. Well, not really. I just kind of wanted to talk about like lyrics and lyricism in Minamata. We'll see what happens. I just wanted to ask, when I kind of listen to it and I read the lyrics, I kind of sense a little bit of a narrative running through it. Is that your intention, or am I making shit up? Like, I can kind of connect things like similar shit that happens in different songs, and I don't know, I feel like there's something happening, almost like I kind of almost sense like a character. Would you agree, or do you have any of that in mind, or no?
Like, when I was writing, it wasn't like conceptually out of the gate. Like, I wasn't like do it like intentionally. It kind of just I guess the themes I was covering just kind of like all encapsulated and came together, and then like I kind of realized like a narrative structure after the fact, and that's usually what happens to me when I write things or whatever. Like, it's usually after everything's done, it then becomes its own thing. I kind of just like do it, and then it just like, and then I don't really have any overarching theme to like. There's not that I don't have anything to say. It's just that I try not to influence. I try not to like influence it too much, where it's like if I get too into it, like what it's supposed to mean, I just start writing shit, and then if I start thinking about it too much, I just let it happen. It's very like intuitive, and it's very just expression like all at once, and then it kind of becomes something later. And that's the one thing I like about it, is that I have my own interpretation of it. I don't necessarily want to share it, but I like it when people develop their own, and like it's really cool that you told me that you found like the own theme like coming through it, and maybe we both kind of have the similar idea of what it is, which is cool, which could be cool. And like I think it's cool when people have their own interpretations of it, and that's kind of why that's kind of really why I love to do it, because it's like I find when I see a band, I see pictures, I listen to the music, I see the art, there's like an encompassing theme, and I have my own like view of that band, and that moves me in a way for some reason. And I just find that's like, yeah, like I think it's really cool if people ever think of that way in terms of anything creative that I'm a part of. And so that's kind of what I intend, is that people make their own interpretations of it. People have their own takeaways from it. And I feel like telling it bluntly just makes it lose footing. I don't know. I'm not great at talking about this, but it's like, yeah, it's just like the theme. I have my own theme of it, and it's because of after the fact, pretty much. And I like it when other people. It is subconscious. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
There's like, because it is real.
It is real. It's there. It's just like I don't like.
It's not conscious. You're not consciously thinking about it as you're doing it. But then you, as it happens, you record it, you listen to it, and then you start to see the meaning.
Yes, and then I see the narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
He helped me.
Yeah, totally.
Just the point on like, oh, thank you. The point on like interpreting things, other people, like that's how popular culture is made. You can't have defined culture unless you're viewing other culture from the outside. Because how are you supposed to tell what's punk and what's like normal or whatever if you don't have those normal people to be like, oh, you're a punk, you guys are punk. So like if your interpretation is and if your interpretation of our music is any particular way, you'll respond to it in a different way and create like a culture in your own head about that, which will influence how
That's exactly like
which will influence how like if you like how you talk about, for example, our music and how like you know.
And that's how it grows. It just becomes big wet. And it becomes larger than anything
it does.
we could have ever imagined.
That's how popular culture is formed. It's it's like how an audience interprets art generally. That's all. Sorry, that's all I got.
Yeah, no, that was a really good answer. Super cool. Cause yeah, when I listen to it, I see themes running through, and yeah, it could totally be like an unconscious thing that comes into something that other people can kind of realize and form opinions on.
Yeah, and some of it's like autobiographical and like really personal, so that's why I don't really like to talk about it. But it's like it's all there.
Yeah. I'm not gonna poke and prod you, but yeah, totally. With Landlord's Son, was that inspired by personal experiences? You have a bad landlord story?
No, it's actually. It's not about landlord specifically.
Oh, okay.
It's about. The one thing I can say is it's about someone who is predatory, and they come from the lineage of a landlord, and so judging from the culture they grew up in, they inhabit those perverted kind of tendencies because it's about kind of exploitation and stuff. And so yeah, that is about like a story in my life, and that's like not about me directly, but someone close to me. So yeah.
Okay.
It was his song.
Yeah.
You know more than me.
Totally. Oh yeah, I totally see that when you say exploitation. I like see that in a few songs. You talk about exploitation. You talk like in Goblets, similar thing, or yeah, Goblets. I'm thinking of the right song.
That's a pretty rough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Do you have anything to say about that one? You don't have to if you don't want to. You can keep it like a little bit. When it's ambiguous, it's more interesting.
Have you guys read the lyrics?
I haven't because it's not in the book.
I'm sorry. Jack.
It's on the Bandcamp.
Is it on the
Dude,
book?
Yeah,
it's all good.
They're all in the Bandcamp. How do I know
They're all
that?
in the Bandcamp. They don't care.
Oh.
No, I know. I just work.
I trust Jack.
I haven't heard the album yet.
I know Jack is a very good artist, very good writer. I trust him in his vision, and that he trusts me to stay out of his way.
Totally.
Very good song.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Bit of a general question. Who's someone that each of you respect, musically or for their character? I don't know. A little bit of an open-ended question. Who's someone that first comes to mind when I say that?
I
First comes to mind.
Or not, it doesn't have to be, but like if that's easiest.
Bootsy Baba.
What is that?
Bootsy, baby. Bootsy Collins of Parliament Funkadelic is like, I think one of the, if not the greatest bass player of all time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, dude.
Wow.
I mean,
Rolling
Rolling Stone. I mean, I don't know. He's pretty influential.
Yeah.
Like, He's up there.
I agree.
I would say one. I'm not gonna say the greatest. I would say one.
Yeah.
He's up there.
Well,
I wasn't sure until Finley said that, and now I have two answers, and they're both bassists. One of them was definitely like the most influential personally, like why I started playing music was Jaco Pastorius. I think he's the best bass player ever.
Did you say Jacob Sartorius?
No.
I don't know who that name is.
Jaco Pastorius.
Jaco Pastorius.
Portrait of Tracy.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I would say currently it's probably more Charles Mingus, who's also a bass player. Plus many other things. Mingus, yeah. You got it.
Of course. Ben? Anybody?
Oh, sorry.
Are we going to talk about Steve Albini?
Well, ever since I stopped being like a kid, I kind of stopped really getting too like involved with like caring about particular musicians as people, because it's kind of just complicated. It feels hard. I like to get to know people, but you can't actually, I don't think that you can really get to know somebody unless you can actually talk to them. So I kind of just don't really care for like, I love a lot of people's music and I feel very connected to a lot of artists and stuff, but personally, I mean the biggest thing that I will always say is like Nirvana was kind of like finding out about Nirvana, like being told about Nirvana when I was like 12 or something. That was very inspiring for me to like come across that kind of music.
Jack.
I'm adding Willie Nelson to mine.
Is this like it has to be like musical artists?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Or just like anyone that like someone who like genuinely like popped in my mind was his name is Drew Taylor. And he's from Hamilton. He's a Hamilton vet, and he's been doing noise projects, fucking punk bands, fucking like since like 2000s, I think late 90s. He's just been around for a long time, and I'm really infatuated by the guy, and actually he's playing tonight. He's in Red 40. He's the singer. He's also a visual artist and an excellent collage artist, and the more I've gone to collage art, like the more I've been really into his work, and just kind of how his like attitude towards art is very I find really profound, because he is so humble, and he really does not give a shit if anyone looks at any of the things he does. And I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome. He seriously has like he's like literally thousands of side projects he's done. And he showed me like one time in his studio, like just a bunch of these like lightning bolt noise albums he was making like 2004. He just does things all the time, and I just love that. I just love how, and everything he touches is gold. Like it's just great. Like literally everything he does is just like fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
and
I gotta say, Drew Taylor is the only man who made me dance.
That's true.
Dude, yes!
I witnessed
yes.
that. That's true.
Last week,
I'm going to check the camera.
Last week, he did a techno set as part of a festival here in Hamilton, and I just could not help but to dance.
Oh no,
it was. I'm not a dancer. I don't dance around that much, but I had to.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything does to go. I'm
He's
like
a force.
he's a creative force.
He's like quite the force.
Yeah, he's quite a creative force, and I hope to work with him on something. I think that would be an absolute honor.
Shout out. Get him on the project.
Yeah, honestly. True. He's playing tonight.
If you yell loud enough, maybe he'll come in.
He's probably gonna come like 5 minutes before the set. Honestly. But yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
A bit of a deep cut, I guess. You guys used to have a little YouTube video talking about the band's conception. Why did you delete it?
Wow.
Yeah, there was a video.
My brother private.
Yeah.
I'll give context. There's just like a video that was like, this is, public health, and it used to be Terrapin, and then it became public health, and here's Finley, and here's Jack, and here's everybody, and it was on YouTube, and then you guys went on CFR. You guys went on CFRU, and they brought it up on CFRU, and then you like privated it like soon after.
Because it was like, it's just kind of, yeah. I was just like, I don't know. It's just funny.
It's funny. It's fan service.
I know. Also, I didn't like tell my brother private that shit now. He like just like did it because it was like a joke in my family. Like my dad was like, you should private that. Oh, you should private that, Eddie. And then like that's kind of funny. And then like I don't know. The video's just kind of funny. We're just like. It was my brother's project. We were not taking it like that seriously. We should have.
Took it a little seriously.
We should have. I don't know. I love you, Eddie. I'm sorry.
No, it was a good video. It was funny.
Yeah. Did you watch it?
Oh yeah. I mean, why?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, it just fucking beamed into my head. Yeah. No.
Oh, you tell.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the ancient rumor?
Yeah, these are like the ancient scrolls. You guys are a 4-piece band, arguably the best amount of members for a band. Which Beatle do you align with most and why?
Two of them I don't really like.
Two of
I would say I feel like we're all
George.
We're all George.
All
I was gonna say it's
Yeah.
kind of like we're all George.
Oops, all George.
We're all George. John's a dick. Yoko's cooler.
Okay. Hot take. That's a hot take.
I mean,
I think Yoko as an artist is way
Yoku?
cooler.
Yoko.
Yoko's cooler.
I like Yoko with Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I feel like she was a really cool artist, and then John Lennon made her less cool.
You think so?
I don't know. Her album Fly
You
is
were into
sick.
Yoko before she was cool? Or before she was mainstream?
Like
I like her
that
just
cut
because
piece
I
you
knew
really
about her. Like nobody else knew about her back then when I knew about her.
Yeah. Back in 65.
Her album Fly is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's better than most of the solo shit that the Beatles made.
A lot of hot takes.
They're gonna get really fucking mad at you.
Yeah, I don't care.
You're gonna get some really mean comments on the blog.
I don't listen to solo Beatles stuff. I just don't.
I just
cares and stuff.
I don't care that much.
Yeah, I don't care to. I've listened to a lot of it, and I don't care to go back.
White album's really good, but like Revolver's cool.
Yeah.
What was good?
Revolver's
What
good.
I just don't.
Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, I don't
I love Sgt. Pepper. Everybody tells me
Sgt.
they
Pepper's
hate
is
Sgt.
good.
Pepper. I love Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Me personally, the benefit of Mr. Kite. Are you kidding me? Like
Out of all of the Beatles songs, the benefit of Mr. Kite.
It's just kind of that song is like I don't like that song.
More than like, while my guitar gently weeps. Fucking, she's so heavy. Kite is better.
No. I said it's like I was saying like. No, I don't like that song.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like that's the number one.
No. I was saying like Sergeant Pepper's one of their worst because they have a lot of songs like that just suck.
Oh yeah, like kind of like.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
waltzy pop songs.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just like that album because
Well, My Guitar Gently is a great song.
Yeah.
Happiness is Warm Guns.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of too, but it wasn't coming to mind. That's what I was thinking of.
And Long. And guess what? They're on the White Album, my favorite.
Yeah, I Will, a great song, also on the White Album.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
All right, everybody's George.
Yep.
It's just
I think we're all George.
I'll be Ringo.
You'll be
If you're Ringo, I'm gonna be Ringo.
What?
You can't choose to be
You can't just say that.
Mom said it's my turn to be Ringo.
All right.
All right. What is next for public health? Do you have big plans for the summer? Anything? Yeah.
We're planning on touring.
Are you gonna do like a decent tour?
Like
kind
East Coast.
Ooh.
Like to Halifax. That's the plan.
Ooh, very nice.
Yep. Currently booking all that right now.
where are you most excited to play within the
Montreal.
Easy.
I mean, Halifax is like.
Okay.
I'm kind of just like.
Well, honestly, I don't know what to expect from Halifax.
I'm kind of.
I've been to Halifax. It's a cool city, but I have no idea.
I should say I'm most excited to go there.
I love Montreal. That's great.
Montreal's a cool city.
It is cool.
Yeah.
BR Max.
BBR Max.
Yeah. You guys have been playing a lot of unreleased material and live shows. Like, it's usually kind of like half unreleased stuff. Do you want to say anything about this material? Do you guys feel like you're going in a different direction at all, or similar direction? I don't know, just anything you want to say about new stuff. And are you gonna record anything soon?
Somewhat within like the next year or so, probably.
Right.
We just want to finalize the stuff and then start recording.
I think one thing, at least personally, that I've noticed change with the newer material is we're relying a lot less on like feedback and droney parts and just like distortion. We were kind of leaning almost into like post rock a little bit with some of our longer songs, and this time we're trying to focus on rhythm. We like our clean guitar sounds.
Rhythm is king.
Rhythm is king. We like to try to just make weird rhythms between the four of us the best we can. That also kind of works harmonically, I guess.
About what direction we're going in, I would say we sort of like depending on I guess the song. Like I would say the later songs that we wrote, being like Rotterdam, Bonjour, Landlord. Like I think we are going in that same direction, but kind of farther down, if that makes sense. Like I think it's a lot more. I don't know. It's a lot more intense. I feel like to me it's weirder a little bit in a good way, not in a bad way. I feel like that's the best way I can think to describe it. Is just sort of farther down that same kind of path.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know how to describe it. I just know I'm like you and I specifically have been listening to a lot of Beefheart and US Maple and yeah, we're just like it's Beefheart coded.
That's kind of the main.
Yeah, it's just like I just doing fun things with the guitar, like more. It's less like reverb.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
I started to look at the guitar a lot differently.
Yeah.
Than when we were writing a lot of the minimal.
Yeah.
Honestly, very inspired. Me personally, when I first saw Film Critics from London, Ontario, that really kind of like that was really inspiring. Like the clean tones that they use and like how they play. Sick band, they're so sick. Just more clean and just kind of weird, but also I feel like it's kind of more emotional at points. Like some of the highs are way more emotionally high than like Minamata, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some of it, I don't know. Yeah.
It's also kind of heavier too.
In some ways,
it's heavier.
Definitely.
Sometimes.
Yeah, we don't really know.
You guys said at one point that like the band is kind of like focused on drums and bass, and the guitar is like kind of extra texture on top of that. Do you still kind of feel that way with the new stuff, or you kind of feel like you're moving a bit more into like more identity like within the guitar?
Oh.
I don't know if I'm allowed to answer.
That's an interesting question. It's like I'm not entirely sure how to respond to that. I feel like I basically, because of the new stuff being a lot more rhythmic, I think in that sense we're a little bit more together instead of like a strong rhythm and two scratchy guitars. It's more like I find I try to play rhythms along with Ben a lot, and I think that kind of unifies it a little bit. Same with everyone else here.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Ben's really locked in.
Ben's locked, so that's the other difference is the Minamata stuff was all written with Dan as a drummer, and most of this new stuff is written with Ben. So I think that's probably the most major difference.
Different engine.
Definitely different engine.
Different
so
engine. Like it just changes.
Yeah.
Totally. That's very cool. Yeah, we're getting towards the end here, but is there what's going on with Ernesto and Basin?
Oh.
Well, you guys did Minamata on it, but
Well, it was like a label I was trying to start, and also like a promotional kind of thing. Yeah. It was like a label I was trying to start, also like a promotional thing, but like I just don't have like money and like as much time, and I just prefer not to like use it anymore. Yeah. It's kind of my thing. Yeah, I think I was being I was like, during my gap year, I was like being like really ambitious, like I'm gonna start a label, do all this stuff, and like, but like it was I don't have money, I just can't do it. Like I don't.
Such is life.
Yeah. So yeah, but if you can start a label, people, because it's we need it. We need labels, like independent labels.
Yeah. One of the last questions. What's just in general an album or song you think people either watching or reading this should listen to? If you guys want to like shout out Hamilton stuff specifically, go ahead, because this might be read by a lot of people at U of T.
Oh, yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Check out Fester. They just released a demo on Bandcamp and just recorded an album. And that will be coming out soon. And Bleat, they also have a demo out. They're sick. Just like great noise, like kind of sound like Flipper, like super sick. Just like, yeah, just like unbelievable stuff. And stuff that's not Hamilton or like local. People should check out Misery's a Butterfly by Blonde Redhead, because we were listening to that earlier. That's a great album. That's like slowly becoming one of my top favorites ever. Yeah.
I mean, now that I'm on the spot, I can't really think of anything except Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys.
Oh, of course. I love Paul's Boutique so much.
It's the best one. It's the best.
It's the best.
The local band that I'm the most excited about right now is Medieval Found Footage, and that album will be coming out in a few months. So I think that's something to keep an eye out on.
They also released something on Bandcamp, like the CD4U live. They like remastered it and remixed it. It sounds excellent.
Yeah, I listened to it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna shout out Rat Hearts by Chamellos.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Is there literally anything else anybody wants to say? Yeah.
Hey, Drew!
Everybody's loading in.
Sorry, I was like talking about you. Yeah.
Is there literally anything at all anybody wants to say at the end of this interview?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Love yourself.
We love yourself and we love you.
Awesome.
I've got a thing I can say too.
Say it, man. Okay? Speak your truth.
Eat good food, listen to good music, talk to people, eat more good food, and listen to more good music, watch good movies, play video games, read books.
All of them.
All of them. Anything you want. Nothing with anime girls in them. That's lame. Yeah.
Oh.
Most importantly, stay healthy.
Oh. That's the public health catchphrase.
That's already it.
Normally it's get healthy, but
Yeah.
if we're already there.
Well, I was telling
If we're already there.
If you get healthy, you stay
I'm
healthy.
saying, I'm just saying.
You know?
yeah, I'm trying to just like do whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Stay warm.
Stay warm.
Stay warm.
It's wet outside.
Go outside, but yeah, make sure that people are
All right. I will call it at that.
warm. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Of course.